Hey, I'm Joe Pruitt. I'm the publisher and / CEO of Aftershock Comics, and you're watching The Experience.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. Today we are going to talk Dune. And I need to let JD know that his mic is on. I could hear paper rattling and stuff. So before I jump into that, though, there was something that popped up. Well, I heard about it yesterday, but it actually popped up 2 weeks ago. And that was a casting that I was not aware of. Let me see if I can find it real quick here, because it was a pretty interesting casting. It came from Variety, but we didn't get a chance to talk about it. And that is that Gael Garcia Bernal has been cast to star in next year's Marvel Halloween special on Disney Plus, most likely as Werewolf by Night. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Werewolf by Night character. He's kind of important right now because it was in the Werewolf by Night series that Moon Knight debuted. So there are some ties to that. Also, we take a look at the characters that were introduced at the very end of Eternals. One of them, well, we know the Black Knight's coming. We also know that Mahershala Ali will be playing Blade at one point. And then with Moon Knight, we're starting to build up a group of characters that could be pulled together into the Midnight Suns. So adding Werewolf by Night seems like a really good concept, or a real good possibility there. And if you're not familiar with Gael Garcia Bernal, he was most recently in M. Night Shyamalan's film Old. He's got an upcoming project with HBO Max called Station 11. He's also in the Jennifer Lopez film The Mother that's coming out, but he's probably best known, at least for me, as the conductor in Mozart in the Jungle. He was the main character in that. And if you're not familiar with Mozart in the Jungle, this was one of the first series that Amazon Prime really put out. And the guy was fantastic. I mean, it was a fun series. I mean, you had Malcolm McDowell, you had Saffron Burrows, you had a bunch of really great actors, but he was the focus of the show, and he was really good in it. Now, we're not sure if he's going to play the original Werewolf by Night, Jack Russell, or probably more likely the more recent one, Jake Gomez. So, or maybe we'll get both. Maybe the special will introduce Jack and he passes on the curse to Jake Gomez somehow. Maybe Jack's an older werewolf and it gets passed on. Anyway, they're going to do it, but it's going to be a Halloween special next year, and I love the idea. I absolutely love the idea. It goes along with the fact that there's going to be a Christmas special next year too, having to do with Guardians of the Galaxy. So but we're also going to get She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, Moon Knight. So we got a lot of great stuff coming up on Disney Plus. And if you're curious what's going on, remember that tomorrow is Disney Plus Day. So if you're a Disney Plus subscriber, I believe you can go on to Disney Plus and there's going to be presentations. If the schedule works how I've seen it, and I haven't seen an official schedule, but I've seen different sites covering it. So, it's supposed to start at 6 a.m. Pacific time, 9 a.m. Eastern, and go through most of the day with presentations. But Marvel's presentation I saw is supposed to be at 8:45 Pacific time. So they've got a bunch of stuff they're doing before that. I didn't see when Star Wars is going to be. And I don't know about you guys, but I think the two biggest things right now are the Star Wars and the Marvel when it comes to Disney Plus. I mean, yes, we're getting new The World According to Jeff Goldblum starting tomorrow, and that's going to be fantastic. There's going to be a new Marvel's Assembled, which is the behind the scene thing. So basically, we're getting behind the scenes of Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi will also debut on Disney Plus starting tomorrow. And we're going to get a Marvel's Legends, which is those short little videos that reminds us about these characters before something comes out. They're going to drop the Hawkeye one tomorrow, which seems a little early because we're not getting the Hawkeye series till the 24th. But, hey, if they want to drop them all now. Also, there's going to be Inside the Helmet, I think is what they're calling it, which is going to be a special about Boba Fett. So there's a lot of great stuff that's going to be on Disney Plus tomorrow. Some new material. And at this point, there's a good chance we're going to get a trailer or at least footage from Andor, the Rogue One prequel series, from Obi-Wan Kenobi, because that should be that point. We might get stuff from Moon Knight with Oscar Isaac, from Miss Marvel, we might get something from She-Hulk, maybe at least a look. And there's always a chance that we may get stuff from the theatrical releases because it is the big day. So we might get a Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, but I'm not going to bank on that one. We might get footage from Multiverse of Madness, which is also about to go through some reshoots. And anybody who thinks that reshoots mean bad things for Marvel, you really should read the story of Marvel Studios. This is the back that comes with it. I picked this book up, and it is absolutely fantastic. I say book; it's actually It's a 2-book set, and I have read the first one so far. It is not a quick read. It is a lot of good material. Everything from things that were, the history of hiring and the people they bring in, and it goes through everything from making the deal to get the Hulk back from Universal, how things happened with Spider-Man to get Sony to loan it to them, what happened with Edgar Wright and Ant-Man. I mean, it doesn't get into the real... There's no real negativity to it. There's a positive spin on everything, or, a neutral spin on it. There's no slamming. There's no, stuff. But yeah, it's a real good read. I'm really enjoying it. And there's so many great pictures, behind the scene pictures. What they say is that the book was in progress and then the pandemic hit, which forced them to kind of put the brakes on things. But when it put the brakes on, it allowed people to start digging a little more into their stuff and find more and more of these behind the scene photos. So from that point of view, the pandemic helped them because it added a lot to this book. Now, the price of the book is a little spendy. Initially, it was $150. I put it on my wish list from Amazon and went, okay, I'm going to hold up for a little bit on that. And then I checked it again on Amazon and it was down to $90. And I went, yes. And now the last time I looked, it was back up to like $124. So, shop around a little bit, see where you can get a good deal on it. But it is probably one of the best things I've read in a while because it really does get into the nitty gritty. The first book alone covers from the early day. I mean, Kevin Feige, when he used to work for Richard Donner's studio, he worked more for Laura Schuler Donner, but and then working on the X-Men for them, and then going on and being hired by Avi Arad, working, and then eventually starting Marvel Studios, and how Avi left, and just going on. And like I said, just through the first book, is up through casting Benedict Cumberbatch for Doctor Strange, for casting Chadwick Boseman for Black Panther. So there was a lot of stuff covered. Why they picked the Russo brothers, the James Gunn, how Peyton Reed ended up taking over for Edgar Wright, and the fact that Peyton Reed had actually been in the running for Guardians of the Galaxy, and how he originally was in the running for Fantastic Four way back when, before Tim Story got it. So there's a lot of great stuff in there. Quotes from all the people, from the behind the scenes people, but Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., they all, interviewed for this. So it is a really great read. And this is a beautiful Christmas gift for anybody who's a big fan of Marvel Studios or who's interested in filmmaking, because this is really a different type of process that they're doing. They do things very differently. So it's pretty neat to see that. And I have the other half of the book still to read, which I'm excited for, because, get into the making of all these other things. And, and some of the things that we only heard about and didn't really, like, oh, they thought about Joaquin Phoenix for Doctor Strange. Well, that's absolutely true. But they went to Benedict Cumberbatch first. He had actually been in consideration to play Malekith in Thor: The Dark World. But then they realized, and when they did the general meeting with him, he brought up Doctor Strange, and they went, yeah, we could see you doing that. And then when they went to him and tried to offer it to him, he had a commitment to play Hamlet that he felt he had to honor. As much as he wanted to do Doctor Strange, he had to honor his commitment. And Marvel was like, you absolutely are right. You have to honor that commitment. So they stepped away for a little bit, and they considered Joaquin Phoenix, and they thought about it for a little while. And Kevin Feige's like, no, we want Benedict. So we're going to push the film and wait for him. And it's the only time they've waited for an actor, and they're happy they did it. But so that's the type of stories you learn by reading this book. And to me, I'm a sucker for that. I love all that kind of stuff. I'm a behind the scenes guy. So I really, really enjoyed that. But so I'm kind of curious what they're doing with these darker characters now, with Blade, with Black Knight, with Werewolf by Night. We're going to get the, and could this lead to another Ghost Rider? Because if you're doing the Midnight Suns, or you're going in that direction, Ghost Rider seems to be kind of the hinge pin for that. And I look back at like the Nick Cage version, or the Gabriel Luna version on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I just think of the effects they had for that and what they could do now. I think that's probably going to be incredible, what they can do with the effects and stuff. And I think a Midnight Suns movie, they could do it as a series. I'd rather them use the Disney Plus series and stuff like that to build the characters up and then bring them into a Midnight Suns movie, maybe have them up against Lilith or something like that, like the original Rise of the Midnight Suns comic series. But that would be I think it would be awesome to go a little darker, a little more on the horror side, and see how that corner of the MCU works, absolutely fascinated by that. And I love the casting of Gael Garcia Bernal, because like I said, he was so good in Mozart in the Jungle. I can't wait to see what he can do as a werewolf. Just flat out think that would be great. So, all right. Before we move on to our main topic, I want to remind you guys, do me a favor, hit the like button, the subscribe button, those kind of things. That helps us out a lot. We're still trying to build up the channel. If you're on YouTube, we're trying to reach 1,000 followers there. That opens up a bunch of doors to us, tool-wise, along having to do with YouTube, but also on Facebook, these other stuff. So if you could hit the like buttons, I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, right after this is going to be What's in the Box at 6 to Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. It's going to be a 2-hour What's in the Box from what I'm reading. And this is pretty much where Miss Jen goes into her warehouse, just grabs a random box from the warehouse, brings it out, and then just starts selling it. And, for 2 hours, she goes through the box, and whatever's in it is what comes up for sale. It could be toys. It could be comics. It could be statues. It could be Jenna's lunch from the night before that she tucked away and hid. Who knows? So check out What's in the Box. And then tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, this is kind of our late night show, Henri Compin is going to be here. And he's going to be doing some back issues. He's going to be selling some key books, some autographed comics, stuff like that, some amazing, hard-to-find indie books. And you'll be here tonight on The Experience. So you want to stick around for that as well. JD says it could be a haunted pirate Kermit doll. That's a very specific thing. And I'm wondering if there's a story there, JD. Bad Dreams, based on a true story. That's what I figured. Yep. You kind of, yeah. Oh, there's one other thing I wanted to address. There is a YouTuber who I don't know if I should say his name or not, but he was given some leaked photos that was potentially from Spider-Man No Way Home. And those photos, one of them showed, supposedly he got 4, and he put 2 up. One of them showed Tom Holland in his Spider-Man costume, Andrew Garfield in a Spider-Man costume, and Tobey Maguire in a Spider-Man costume, all standing on what looked to be the torch of the Statue of Liberty, all with their masks off. Now, he put that up with his watermark on it. And he also put up a picture of Tom Holland sitting at his kitchen table in Aunt May's apartment with Marissa Tomei as Aunt May and Happy Hogan as, John Favreau as Happy Hogan. But with them at the table is Charlie Cox in a suit looking like Matt Murdock. Now, there are some questions about the validity of these photos. So take it all with a grain of salt. That said, he got a call immediately from somebody that, that he trusted, that is in the industry, that said, you want to take those down, those are real. And he quickly removed them, but of course, by then, people have already grabbed them. They're all over the internet. So, and he says that those aren't the raciest of the 2 photos. Those aren't the oh my God of the 4 photos. So, like I said, there are some people looked at those and thought they were photoshopped. The Spider-Man one I thought maybe was, but the one that they're saying is probably photoshopped is the one with Charlie Cox. The Charlie Cox one, though, looked the realest to me. So, are we going to get Charlie Cox, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield in Spider-Man No Way Home? Who the hell knows at this point? I mean, they've been talking about it. They've been pushing it, but I think there's some validity to it. I wouldn't be surprised if they show up. I wouldn't be surprised if I probably would be a little surprised if they don't. But either way, go and enjoy the movie for what it gives us, not what's missing. Don't dislike it for what's missing. Just keep that in mind. All right, let's go ahead and move on to Dune. Now, I remember watching the original adaptation of Dune with Kyle MacLachlan and Dean Stockwell, who just passed away, and who else was in it? Sting, Patrick Stewart, I mean, it was a pretty interesting movie for its time. I believe it was Kyle MacLachlan's first movie. He posted the other day after Dean Stockwell passed that the first two movies he was in had Dean Stockwell in both, and those were Dune and Blue Velvet. So what an interesting set of movies to start your career with, huh? But so I remember watching that, and I remember liking it okay, but it was very confusing. They tried to put way too much into a movie. It was just like pack it all in, give us all the exposition, and it just got to be too much. Now, move to this new take, which, of course, is being directed by Denis Villeneuve, and it's based on a John Spadis script, along with Villeneuve and Eric Roth. Now, John Spadis has got some pretty good chops if you think about it. He wrote the Doctor Strange script, Passengers, the movie with Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence. He was the writer on Prometheus. So he's got some, like I said, he's got some big names behind him. He's also got a Van Helsing screenplay that's in the works. He's going to be writing the Justice League Dark screenplay. And of course, he's involved, or he did the Mummy screenplay for Tom Cruise. So again, it's kind of back and forth, but I didn't hate any of those movies. He also did the screenplay for The Darkest Hours. So I think he's got a good resume there of scripts. So, the fact he did this one, you also have this absolutely amazing cast. I mean, Timothée Chalamet, he may not have been in a ton of things, but he's getting a huge amount of respect for his work. And then you've got Zendaya, who is also between movies like the Spider-Man franchise, her role in The Greatest Showman, stuff like that. She's getting a lot of respect. And then you throw in Rebecca Ferguson, Oscar Isaac, Stellan Skarsgård, Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem, Jason Momoa, Dave Bautista, Chang Chen, Charlotte Rampling, David Dastmalchian. I mean, it's an absolutely riches of great actors is what you got to look at here. So you've got this cast. The problem is, and don't get me wrong, I like the movie. Let me start by saying I like the movie. The problem is that there is so much information to give the viewer that by the end of the movie, it doesn't feel like a movie. It's a little bit Lord of the Rings-ish in that, you get to the end of the movie and you realize that there is so much more to do, that all you really did was this one part of the story. In Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Rings, it's all about Frodo getting the ring, leaving the Shire, making his way to meet up with Aragorn, going to Rivendell, and then forming the Fellowship and heading off. Is that where it ends? No, I think it ends with the fight. Yeah, the fight where Boromir gets really pincushioned. So it's a lot there, but you get to the end, and it feels like a movie, but it's like, no, you're going to have to come back later for this. And I think we knew that. We all knew they were doing 3 movies. You didn't get that with Dune. I mean, if you were familiar with the books, you knew, you kind of had to know, but there was no guarantee they were doing 3. It's not like with Lord of the Rings where they came out and said, we're doing 3 movies. This was, I don't think they really laid out expectations well for that. So when we get to the end of the movie, it feels like it just, continued next week, or to be continued. And you remember how that felt when you were a kid and you're watching a TV show and it gets to the ending and goes to be continued? I mean, that's probably the first time you ever used the F word because you heard your mom or dad say it when they dealt with that. Big dramatic moment and to be continued. Yeah, we all did it. Yeah. Lisa hates it. If there's a to be continued and it's not on, if we're not binge watching something, she is not happy. So, and it's still to that day. And so many people are that way. And I kind of felt, that was kind of the feeling I got at the end of Dune. Like we got all this way to get to, basically to get to Zendaya. We have all this movie where we're watching this dream thing and he keeps seeing Chana in his dreams and stuff. And, but you're dealing with everything else. But by the time Paul and Johnny get together, it's the end of the movie. And it's like, well, wait, and then you start going down the list and you're like, but you've killed Oscar Isaac and you've killed Jason Momoa and I think you've killed Josh Brolin. I guess not. And I think you killed Stellan Skarsgård, but I don't know. But Rebecca Ferguson's still around. But Chang Chen is definitely dead. And I know David Tasmalchian's dead. So what are we doing? Where do we go from here? And that's kind of that feeling you get at the end that it's just like, yeah. JD had the same thing. He didn't know it was a series of movies until after it was released. Nobody did. There was no guarantee there was a sequel. Even and with the numbers and stuff, nobody was sure that there was going to be a sequel. So just to have it end where it did, I assume, JD, you saw it. I actually saw it the same day I saw Eternals, which was kind of funny. Well, sort of. I watched it in 2 sittings. It's a long movie. So I watched some of it Sunday night. I went to see Eternals Monday afternoon, and then Monday night I finished Dune. So it's like I've got half of Dune, Eternals, the other half of Dune. And time-wise, I think they're almost the same. Dune is 2 hours and 35 minutes. And then let me just double check here real quick. Eternals, I think, is 2 hours, 37 minutes. Let's find out for sure. 2 hours and 36 minutes. So there's a 1 minute difference between the two. So you basically you have these two big space epics where they're giving you a lot of information, but they feel very different. Dune feels a little harder to connect to because there's so many foreign things to pick up on. With Eternals, we're based on Earth. We're using a lot of things that we know of, and even the characters, though they have unique names, we see how they tie to mythological heroes. Makari is Mercury. Icarus is the story of Icarus. Gilgamesh is the hero of poetry. Circe, all these names. Athena is Athena. Down the line. So most of them you tie into the Greek mythology and stuff like that, or different mythologies. The name and stuff, there's a lot to pick up on in Dune. And I'll tell you the honest truth. The thing that kept throwing me off is I accepted Atreides and I accepted Arrakis and the Harkonnen and the Sardaukar and everything. Even those cool helicopter like fighters called the Ornithopters. I was good with all of that. the thing that kept throwing me out of the movie every time I heard it was Jason Momoa's character. The guy's name is Duncan Idaho. And all I could think of is, what on earth is the name Idaho doing in the middle of this space epic? Peter de Vries is a name. Wellington Yu, Beast Rabban Harkonnen, Reverend Mother Moheim. I mean, these are all the names that are going on in this movie. And then you get a guy named Duncan Idaho, which just sounds like a made-up punk name, you know? And on bass, Duncan Idaho. You know, it really didn't fit for me. But, all right. We're going to get deeper into Dune in just a few minutes. Let's go ahead and take a break. So stick around and we'll be right back.
They say, and it's true, that everything is getting faster. You're not getting any younger, and time is the single resource that you can never get back or get any more of. So why are you wasting time wandering around a comic book shop looking for a new storyline to get hooked on?
Hi everybody, and welcome to Minute to Skin It. Yeah!
Spend 1 hour with Miss Jen and Bean, and they'll give you the leg up on all the latest books hitting shelves this week. Your pull list will be brimming with the hottest new books before your friends even hear about them.
Susan Provenance of Secrets. This is The Heathens. I read Wolverine number 17.
It's Minute to Skim It, every Tuesday at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
I'm Thomas Munn with Blue Juice Comics, and you're watching The Experience.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show. By the way, JD, that is a much, much better commercial for Minute to Skim It. Good job on that. I've been thinking about a commercial for this show. We don't have one yet. And I know JD had an idea, and I kind of blew that by making a change. But my idea for the commercial, and you guys can tell me what you think about it, is, do you remember the old In Excess video Mediate, where they're just standing there holding cards? Mediate, try not to hate, love your mate, don't suffocate on your own hate. Just goes on, and they just keep dropping the cards and stuff. I thought it would be cool to have a video using those guys, my hot toys, having them hold signs saying stuff like pop culture, latest movies, deep dives, da-da-da, and just have it running through with a cool beat song, talking about the things we do here on the Dan Wickline Show. So that was my idea for a commercial. I don't know if that'll end up happening or what JD will end up putting together. But, yep, it's definitely time for a Dan Wickline commercial, because then I can run it on my social media and stuff like that as well. All right, let's get back into Dune. Before we get any further, though, we are going to get into some spoilers, and you know what that means. JD, run that spoiler roll. Alrighty, guys. So, if you haven't watched Dune yet, it's currently on HBO Max, which is where I saw it. But this is definitely a film that if you can go see it in the theater you probably should. And if you can see it on IMAX, you really should, because it is a big, grand spectacle that has so many really cool things. I mean, this is some of the scenes you see the size and scope of the alien technology, or it's hard for me even to say alien technology. I just learned recently that House Atreides, which is where Paul comes from, the main character, and his dad, Leto, can trace their line all the way back to Earth. So this is basically 11,000 AD. We're currently in like 2021. So it's way in the future. But these are descendants of Earth, which, again, had I known that before, hearing a name like Duncan, Idaho may not have been as jarring to me as it is. Or like the fact that his name is Paul, or his mom's name is Jessica, but it is interesting that they are descendants of Earth. Now, the scope on this thing, though, is there's a scene where Gunny, to James Brolin's character, they're being attacked by the Harkonnen, and the Sardaukar is kind of mixed in there as well, quietly. And you see them running for ships. The whole idea is that they're under attack. The shields have been brought down. It's been internal sabotage, and the Harkonnen are coming in. And they're trying to get anything that can fly off anything with guns off the ground. Because, I mean, whatever war epic you see, if planes are on the ground, they're dead ducks. You got to get them up into the air where they can be useful. And that's the same thing with ships. So they're out there and they're running to these big ships that they can get up off, and get into the fight. And one of them gets hit and destroyed. And you see the ship is taking up like the full screen. It's absolutely huge. And Gunny and his people are like this big off to the side. And you see this thing collapsing, and these guys are like, oh my God, what's that? Which just shows you the scope and scale of these ships, which is awesome. And again, it probably looks amazing on IMAX. So if you're going to go see it, or if you want to see it, I do recommend the theater. I saw it at home, but I do recommend the theater on that, just like I recommend the theater on Eternals. But if IMAX is an option for you, I would take it, because these movies are, the bigger the better, is what I believe on these. But the basic story here, it's a very small story with a huge background, which is what fascinates me here. You can boil it down to, there's an emperor who controls everything. And House Atreides, which is Paul's family line, currently run by Leto Atreides, Duke Leto Atreides, has become more and more powerful and more popular. And their popularity is gotten to a point where the emperor is concerned and wants to take them out. So how he does this is that currently the planet of Arrakis is this desert planet that is hard to exist on. The sun will kill you if you're outside in it. There are these people called the Fremen who exist on the planet, but overall it is almost impossible. And the thing is that it has this thing they call spice, or melange. And melange is used for interstellar travel. And they don't get into the movie. They just kind of say it's necessary for interstellar travel. But what it is there's certain beings that can ingest this spice. And when they do, it opens up their mind to be able to do all the calculations and stuff needed for hyperspace travel. It's kind of how it works out. So the spice is very important, and mining the spice is huge. Now, the Harkonnen used to do it, and they treated the freemen as slaves and just killed them, and just they were not treating the freemen very well. Well, the Emperor decides to recall the Harkonnen and give the planet of Arrakis to House Atreides. Now, it's a huge financial boon to House Atreides, but what it does is it puts a giant X on them. Basically, it says, hey, Harkonnen, these guys are taking your money. These guys are taking away what's yours. And the Emperor's men, the Sardaukar, who are these great warriors, the Harkonnen are then loaned some of the Sardaukar, and they basically get one of the insiders of House Atreides to betray the family, put the shields down. So once they've gone to Arrakis to establish everything, to set it up, then the Harkonnen attack and wipe out House Atreides. And then to everybody else, it looks like a family war, and the Emperor wasn't taking sides. He was completely taking sides. This whole thing was a manipulation to get rid of House Atreides because they had become too popular and were becoming a threat to the Emperor. That's what it boils down to. But there's a sub-story going on. There is this kid, Paul Atreides, who is believed to be the one, the special person. And there's a term for it. I do not remember, but it's in the foreign language that they speak. And he was kind of bred to be special. The mother, the queen mother of this group of almost like witches, finds basically creates this daughter. There it is. The Quetzalcoatl Haderach. He's supposed to be the one, the mother and the son, that will lead them, the freemen, out of the desert and into prosperity and all of this. But basically, his mother was specifically engineered to then breed with somebody from House Atreides to create the one. And they have this ability called the voice, which basically commands people. And if this is starting to sound a bit like Star Wars and the Force, that's because this is where George Lucas got some of his ideas from. It is absolutely that, but this came before Star Wars. So Paul has this ability to command people to do what he wants, but he's still learning it. And his mom has it as well. But the whole idea is that Leto Atreides thinks that they can go to Arrakis and learn desert power and use that to defend themselves and to make being on Arrakis worthwhile, make it, a safe place. But he doesn't get the chance. He gets killed. And we think he gets to take out the Baron. The Baron might have survived the poisoning, but a lot of his men get killed. I don't know enough of the story to remember if the Baron gets alive or not, but I think Paul is actually, his mother is a descendant of the Baron. Is like it's very complicated. It's basically a science fiction political thriller. Let's see. The novel is such a hugely complex, intense 18th century European political drama set in space, along with the Christ allegory and the love story in the center. There is really no way to film the book in a way that gets it all. Yep, that could have been the show right there, JD. You could have just come on, said that. We could have gone off and got some lunch. That was pretty much it right there. Some of the characters there, like I said, they introduced Duncan Idaho's this incredible warrior and friend to Paul who helps train them, but he's dead by the end of the movie. Gunny what's his full name? Gunny. I got it right here. Oh, Gurney Halleck is the soldier and probably the closest to Duke Leto. I don't know if he's dead or not. I thought he was, but I've heard that he actually shows up later. So these big characters they bring in, a lot of them are dead by the end of the movie. You know, we meet Stilgar, who's one of the Freemen. That's Javier Bardem, and he's going to be a huge role in the second movie. Dave Bautista is still around. He's the Baron's nephew or son. So Baron Vladimir Harkonnen is Stellan Skarsgård, and Dave Bautista is Beast Rabban Harkonnen, and they're going to be important in the second. But it is, Gurney. Thank you. So the first movie is a lot of setup. It's getting them to Arrakis, the big betrayal, Paul starting to accept the Christ allegory, explaining the political setup, also to introduce the giant sandworms. And there's a name for the sandworms. You got that one too there, JD? The sandworms are awesome. The Shih-Hulud. They are awesome. They do a really good job with that. The term "walk without rhythm" and you won't attract the worm. It comes from Fatboy Slim has it in one of his songs. It's because if you're any rhythmic beat in the desert draws these giant sandworms that can eat these big spice collectors. The spice is actually just laid out on the sand. It's in the air and it falls on the sand. These collectors go along and sift all of it out. Well, any rhythmic pattern attract the worms. So there's a special walk you have to do when you're going through the desert. It's a Freeman walk, and you like slide at one point and you step forward and then you slide to the side and then you hop. I mean, it would be the worst dance move ever, but it's walking without rhythm. But if they want to attract a Shih-Hulud, they have these things called thumpers, which are they're just like plastic eggs split in half, and they put it in the ground like a tent spike, and then it just slams together repeatedly, in a perfect rhythm, and it draws the worms to that. But you find out stuff like the Freemen have a different relationship with the Shih-Hulud to the point where they can actually ride them, which fascinates the hell out of me at that point. I can't wait to see that in the second movie. But the whole thing is basically getting Paul from being this skinny young kid to becoming the potential warrior that will lead the Freemen and change everything and bring down the Emperor. And that's what the first movie is about. It's the setup. So while it's doing all of this, and it's this grand spectacle, like I said, there is just, it would have been better knowing going in that that's what it was. I don't think they properly set expectations. We're coming in, we're going to see Dune, and you go in there and it's like, okay, all right, I'm good. When's the next one? This isn't like, Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame when they're a year apart. We don't know when the second Dune's going to be. They didn't announce it until after the first one was out for a little bit. And like I said, I don't think we've got a date on Dune 2, do we? Let me check IMDb real quick. Dune Part 2. Well, it says 2023. So that's a way out there. And part of what Paul does is he sees these images. Whenever he comes in contact, he's been having dreams, and Gianni is one of the people in his dreams. But the dreams aren't exactly accurate. He sees himself killed by Jameis, and then he ends up killing Jameis at one point. But he dreams about this big holy war that's coming and how he's leading it, and under the flag of House Atreides. And he talks about how it's under his father's flag, how it's under his father's, they're worshiping at his father's skull and stuff like that. So, and that's 2 years away, which seems like a long time. JD says, to be fair, the first 100 pages of Dune is harder to fit on a poster. Well, no, but they could have said Dune Part 1, And we, at this point, I'm not even sure if it's a 2-part, a 3-part movie. Is it 5 movies? I mean, again, I haven't read Dune, so are we really looking at this as the first 100 pages of Dune? How much is left? Do we think there's going to be 2, 3, 4, 27, at least 2 movies? 2 more movies, JD? Or, okay, so it's looking like a trilogy. All right. So casting somebody young like Timothée Chalamet, great idea. But he's a busy guy, too. So, because his next project is Willy Wonka. 62 Lefty Blues says it's about 8 books. Oh my gosh. This should have been an HBO Max series. But then the second book, 3-4 movies. So this is Lord of the Rings, is what we're saying here. Is that, if there's 8 books and each book is three movies, 24 movies, which ironically is still 2 less than what's currently out from Marvel Studios right now. Well, I don't know if we'll get all 8 books. I think they're going to focus on the first one and go from there. But if they do well, then I'm sure they'll keep going. But you got to keep in mind that it's hard to judge the first one, being that it was a day and date release on HBO Max. So it did okay in theaters, but it didn't do huge. So that's why some people weren't sure if there was going to be a number 2. But I got to say, other than the fact that it is, it's a lot of setup, but I know that there's another movie coming. Had I known that going in, I probably would have enjoyed it a little better. And if they would have given the guy a name other than Duncan, Idaho, that really bothered me. I don't know why, but Duncan, Idaho really bothered me. The 4th book's main character is a giant human sandworm hybrid. I'm sorry, what? Oh, 62 says there are 15 Dune novels. Wow. Okay, I don't think, especially if each one is 3 books, I don't think I'll see all of them. I don't think I'll be alive to see all of them. I don't even know if that's a lot. Okay, so the main character is a giant human sandworm hybrid. That sounds like it's from the porn version of Dune. I got to tell you, that's just... Alrighty. So, back to my overall thoughts. I thought Timothée Chalamet's performance was great. I really did. I had not seen him in anything prior to this, but I get why everybody is talking about him like he's the next Daniel Day-Lewis. Rebecca Ferguson is always great. Oscar Isaac is always great. It's it's a well-acted movie. It's really great to look at. It is a beautiful movie. Denis Villeneuve, beautiful movie. And I think that with the sequel, it's going to be awesome. It's a little slow. There's a lot of stuff to take in. So this is not a movie you want to go see when you're tired. This is not the go turn your mind off kind of movie. You want that? Go see Venom. Wait for Ghostbusters 2 that comes out, or Ghostbusters Afterlife that comes out next week. This is one that you may want to bring a notebook. I love the designs of the ships. They're all very unique. The Ornithopter is one of the coolest ships I've seen in a long time. If there's a Lego version or a scale model version of that coming out soon, I'm probably going to get it because it is that cool. But overall, it's a good movie. I like it. But it's going to need its sequel to feel like a real movie. It feels like part of a movie. So we'll have to see how that works out. All right, guys, that is going to wrap it up for today. Remember to stick around for What's in the Box with Miss Jen, starting up right after this. She'll be going for 2 hours. And then make sure to refresh your page after the show ends to join Miss Jen for What's in the Box. And then after tonight, our late night show is Kicking It with Henri, as he will be selling some great books and stuff like that as well. So stick around for that. I will be back next week. Monday, we will talk about all the stuff that comes out tomorrow for Disney Plus. Tuesday, we're going to do a deep dive into Ghostbusters for the upcoming movie. No, that's Wednesday. So Tuesday is Disney Plus. Wednesday, I don't do shows Monday. Wednesday is Ghostbusters. And then Thursday, I have a very special guest, horror director and writer Adam Marcus from Jason Goes to Hell, Secret Santa, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You'll definitely want to tune in for that one. Adam is brilliant and is a great interview. So definitely come back next week for that. Have a great weekend. Be well. Good night, everybody.